Happy Christmas Eve, Eve. Hi, guys. You okay? This red nose is very sore. I probably won't wear this red nose throughout the whole chat. But we're going to be chatting about Slumber Party by Christopher Pike. So I'm just going to add our special guests in. Hopefully, if I do it right. Right, I think I've added everyone in. Hi, guys. Santa's little helper. Hi, Cameron. Hello. You okay? Hi, Josh. Oh.
Hello.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Good.
I love your nose and your antlers.
Oh, I'm gonna have to take this nose off in a minute. It's really really sore. And obviously I'm gonna have like marks all over my cheeks. Oh, what is that noise? Oh, are you there, John?
It's a snowman.
I am.
Yeah.
Just trying to fix my light. There we are.
Brilliant. We're all here, our slumber party for Christmas Eve. Yay! And to quote Mindy from Slumber Party, hey, you penguins! Whilst chewing bubblegum.
Hi, Princess Shelley.
Princess Shelley. Oh, God. If these bells are annoying, tell me, because that's all I can hear in my ears. So we're going to be chatting about Christopher Pike's Slumber Party with the tagline, oh, yeah. Nice one, Cameron and Josh. Yeah. Oh, we've got the same, Cameron. And then Josh and Dilly.
Oh.
We've got exactly the same, Cameron. But yep. I remember I messaged Cameron and I said, Cameron, there's other covers out there. I'm tempted.
I know. I got these three, and now I'm tempted to collect all the other foreign editions.
I know. It's so bad. What are we like? But yeah, so our special guest this evening, if you don't know, we've got the brilliant John in his Santa hat. So John is a huge Christopher Pike fan, and he is one of the admins of the official Christopher Pike Facebook page. And John has actually interviewed Christopher Pike years ago, haven't you, John?
I did many years ago. I don't like to be reminded of it too often. It makes me feel very old. It was about 1998, so it's kind of right towards the end of his kind of first kind of, I suppose, tranche of success. You know, he was coming to the end of that kind of YA period, so The Grave hadn't even been published yet. I think that was the one he was working on. So yeah, very late on.
Oh, and then when you came on the chat for one of the Midnight Club chats, and you showed us some like unseen artwork that you had of Christopher Pike. I thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah, the Eternal Enemy.
Yeah. So it was like an unreleased cover, but it was too spoilery. So they had to change it. See, I remember these things. Oh, hi, Karen. Karen's travelling, so I'm really impressed that Karen's here. Thank you, Karen. And also we have the brilliant author and my dear friend Joshua Winning, author of The Shadow Glass, Murderous Puppets, and Burn the Negative. And upcoming Heads Will Roll next year, which if you haven't seen the cover, pop by Josh's profile and have a little look, because it looks awesome and I'm excited and I can't wait. And we've got the brilliant Cameron Chaney, author of Autumn Crow and Autumn Crow High, which I've got on my Kindle, so I've just got a little picture here. Autumn Crow High, Fresh Hell. Which is so cool. I read it over Halloween time, and it was a perfect read for Halloween. So brilliant. Well, you can read it any time, really, but
yes,
more so at Halloween. And last time Cameron was here, we chatted about The Hitchhiker, which we will never forget for the piranhas. I'm gonna have to take this nose off because I feel like a right idiot. I'm just gonna put it down. Ow! Oh, my ears. Oh, it's me, it's Shelley. I'm here.
It does look pretty painful.
Yeah.
I know. It was really squashing my nose. Oh dear, now it just looks wrong. Oh well, it's just gonna have to stay there now. We'll just go with it.
Shelley,
Close.
just say it was burnt.
It was burnt. It was burnt. Oh, thank you, Georgia. Yeah, I had my hair chopped off for charity, so it's gone short now. So yeah, I'm cold, but it was for a good cause. So yeah, so if you're joining in, there will be spoilers ahead for. I think I've got lipstick on my teeth now as well. There will be spoilers ahead for Slumber Party by Christopher Pike, but do feel free to put any comments up and we'll try and read them out. So the synopsis of this one was, it was the perfect weekend for murder. Well, we hoped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a change from West Star High School, I think they went to, 6 single and ready to mingle girls are heading to Cedar Stream by night for a reunion, which is pretty much the same crowd as that slumber party from years ago when they were 9 years old and drank brandy. And there's a granddaddy of a storm about to hit, and they get a lot more than what they bargained for. So what could be better than 6 friends out for the sun and the ski in a huge posh house with a warm fire? But obviously with the storm about to hit, they get more than what they bargained for, and the memory of what happened last time they were all together comes thrashing to the surface, and maybe someone is just out for revenge. So to kick things off then, obviously we meet our girls. So there's Lara, Dana, Rachel, Mindy, Nell and Celeste. So we meet them straight off the bat and we get a good sense of what their characters are from the offset. So why were these girls actually on holiday together? That's what I want to know what you think first. Because they were like savage and they clearly hated each other, right? So what were your thoughts on this? Like, did Christopher Pike do this on purpose? Cameron, what did you think?
Aren't all teenagers like this? I don't know. I was homeschooled through high school, so I wasn't around very many teenagers like. I find it very entertaining to read about.
They were just savage. They were so savage to each other.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, John? What did you think of
Yeah,
our single 6?
this was I think the second or third Christopher Pike book I ever read. The first one was Witch, and so by that point there weren't that many available, so I kind of just grabbed what I could. So Slumber Party was the second one I read, and I remember reading it at the time and thinking, these girls are just horrible. Like, why are they heading off to a remote ski lodge that we learned pretty much straight away is going to be cut off in a storm, Kel Surprise, when they just despise each other? Like, none of them stick up for each other. None of them have each other's backs. Just when you start to like somebody, like, I think the most likable character amongst the whole lot is probably Lara, but then she does like pretty horrific things that make you suddenly go, I actually don't like her very much. You know, her friend is like, says off the bat, she's basically been sexually assaulted by some guy that she's known for about 5 minutes. And she's basically going, but you enjoyed it really, didn't you? And you're like, no. So I didn't actually like many of the characters, but as Cameron was saying, you know, I think as teenagers, you know, they kind of probably acted pretty much like a bunch of teenage girls in the 80s probably would have acted, you know, jealous over boys, etc. So yeah, I didn't find many of them likable, but you do sort of root for them at the end.
Yeah, it kind of made me think. I was like, gosh, was I like this when I was their age, like with my friends? So yeah. How about you, Josh? What did you think of the 6 girls?
It's kind of like, are they just kind of stuck with each other? It's like either have no friends or have these friends. Are they the 2 options that they have in high school over there?
Yeah.
It really reminded me. Have you ever seen that TV show Girls that had some like 5 seasons? And
no, I haven't seen
they were
that.
famously unlikable, I think, was maybe the nicest way of describing them. Where I love them all. I think they're fascinating as characters, but they're like brutally honest with each other to the point where it's actually really quite mean sometimes and really quite insensitive, but it kind of works. And maybe it kind of works for these girls as well, because they lived by the end, you know. So
Yeah, they
Like
can't.
a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah. They kind of reminded me of Scream Queens, you know, the Chanels, and I was like, I just couldn't get that out of my head the whole way through. Like Chanel number 5. But yeah.
I think what's interesting as well, though, is that he at least keeps it consistent, because when we get that flashback scene kind of 3/4 of the way through the book, you almost forget that they're supposed to be about 9 or 10 in that scene, because they are still talking like those slightly bitchy teenage girls. And it was only kind of towards the end of the flashback I was like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be about 8 or 9. So at least they remain consistently mean and awful to each other, you know, in that intervening kind of 8 years since the accident happened. So, you know, that I can say was at least consistent. You know, they kept those. And I think the key thing that he did that for was to make each of those individual girls stand out, because I must admit, even on the reread, I started to kind of try and remember who was who. There was kind of a lot of, there's 6 of them. That's a lot to kind of get to grips with and find out their different motivations, their different character traits. So I think making each of them, you know, mean in a kind of different way at least helped me to remember who was supposed to be who.
Yeah, that's so true. Actually, yeah, I didn't think of that. They did immediately all have their own character traits, stood out. I didn't get confused on who's who at all.
and it's quite clever the way that they kind of paired them off into separate rivalries as well. So they kind of come in pairs, which makes it easier for you to remember who's who.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So if you had to, you've got no choice to pick a team to play charades with out of those 6 girls. Who is on your team, Cameron? Who did you want on your team? None of them.
I guess I have to choose Laura and Dana, just because they're slightly nicer. They are more buddies, at least. But yeah, they're in the core. They're still very mean spirited, but at least they stick together in a way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would have picked those 2.
Laura's kind of the only one who's worried about Dana when she goes missing, but then she's like, oh, she's probably fine. There's nothing to worry about.
Let's make dinner.
Cooking dinner, thinking about boys. Good old Laura. How about you, Josh? Who would you have on your charades team out of all of them? You could include the 2 boys as well if you want. Like, okay. You know.
Yeah. I'm good without the boys.
Oh no, me too.
I would probably go with Nell and Celeste, because I know that we would win.
Oh,
my rationale.
Yeah. I like that. How about you, John? Who would you pick?
I feel like Cal and Percy have got the bad end of the stick here, so I'm going to say Cal and Percy, because Percy would at least be remote, you know, slightly chivalrous, and would probably be, you know, help you out. Cal would be like drunken and probably trying to, you know, fumble with you, but I think at least the 2 of them would be a bit of a laugh. So yeah, I'm going to go with Cal and Percy, because let's face it, at the end of the day, Cal actually comes up trumps. It's because of Cal towards the end that they actually get any kind of adult help, you know, after like 48 hours there. So I think Cal gets a bit of a rough end of the stick in the book. Slightly, most of it self-inflicted, but it comes good in the end. So yeah, I'm team the boys.
Oh, I like that. I think someone put, I'm trying to read the T-shirt. I think it's your T-shirt, Cameron. What's your? They're trying. Oh.
She's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's so cool.
Thank you.
Love it. Oh, Tam's having problems with our voices again. I think she had that problem last time. Yeah, Teddy put there, all the characters are just horrible. But I kind of like that in a way. Like, I do tend to like really horrible bitchy characters, because I'm just like so shocked that they could be that bitchy all the time.
Who was it? Was it Joanna in
That's what I was, in the boyfriend. Joanna in the boyfriend.
Oh, she's great.
So much fun.
Love her.
I love that book.
Yeah.
And also Eva Dalby from Silent Night and the Fear Street series, who's really, really bitchy, and she's just so much fun to read about, because what is she going to do next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose life is she going to destroy?
So like as writers then, so Cameron, as a writer, like, do you like writing like bitchy characters or characters we won't like?
I'm trying to think. I have have written some bitchy characters before. I have written some truly kind of despicable characters at their core, and it's interesting to write about, and it does make it a little more fun. Mostly I just base it off of people that I've known in real life, and I'm I won't say who, but there's a lot of inspiration to choose from in real life.
Oh wow! What about you, Josh? Do you like writing like unlikable characters?
Well, this is the thing that sometimes people say that certain characters I've written are unlikable, but to me, I didn't actually ever think of them as unlikable when I was writing them. And I know that some people have sort of felt a bit cruel towards Laura in Burn the Negative at the start of the book, and I took that one a little bit personally because I was like, that is basically me. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's fine.
Oh, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh dear. And what about you, John? Do you like reading like unlikable characters? Does that like keep you interested?
To a degree, and that's why I'm glad that kind of, you know, the six of them, you know, as has been mentioned, they kind of were paired off, and they were paired off with someone that kind of tempered it a little bit, and we saw a little bit more of their own character rather than that kind of antagonistic side of them. So I like bitchy characters when they're kind of fun and you kind of think, oh yeah, they're going to get their comeuppance. But just reading a whole book full of those six girls, you know, if they didn't sort of change and develop, would have been as tough as Lara trying to get through that snowstorm. So yeah, I wouldn't have enjoyed that an awful lot. So they did kind of mellow a bit, and it's kind of interesting because I think I was thinking about the Slumber Pike because it was so early on in obviously Pike's career. I think it was his first book, and how much you can see the seeds of the characters, and especially the girls, because I always thought that he wrote really strong girl characters. You know, he always had a very strong, you know, kick-ass girls in his books, which I really liked, and they weren't the kind of wimpy books. And you see the seeds of that in those six girls there, and you can almost see, you know, throughout his books, those kind of archetypes being developed, and you can kind of pick each one of those girls and say, well, one of them appears in like Master of Murder, and another one appears in Monster and Hollow Skull. You can kind of see where he's going with that. It's not, you know, it's not his obviously his best written book. He was still finding his voice, but I think what he was doing with those bitchy characters there, you know, developed later into his career, and he was able to, you know, to develop kind of more rounded female characters definitely later on. That's one of the reasons I really enjoyed Pike books, because his girl characters were not kind of like feeble and, you know, needing rescuing all the time. You know, he actually wrote really strong, interesting, complex girl characters, which wasn't being done much in YA at the time.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I agree with that. No, definitely. And Melina's mentioned about there was a lot of weight comments, like especially towards like, is it Dana or Dana? I'm not sure. I say Dana, especially towards Dana. So I think that was more typical of its time, because this book was originally released 1985. So what do you think? Do you think that was just a sign of the times? I mean, it's not right on any means. It was quite uncomfortable to read sometimes, especially being a bigger girl myself. I was a bit like, oh. But yeah, so, you know, what do you think? Do you think just a sign of the times, Cameron, on that?
I see that a lot in vintage books, and it's something kind of start to come to expect, that, and, you know, a long list of other things with a vintage book. So yeah, it was almost like kind of checked off the box in a way. I've read a lot of other Pike books, and I don't remember it being quite so vicious in that way in his other books as it is in this one. Maybe just because the characters are so despicable in this, or but I don't recall it being quite so mean in that way in his other books.
There was that line about she says, I wish that anorexia was contagious, which really made me wince. And I've no doubt that anybody who wrote that in 85 would now look at that and say, gosh, you know, I probably shouldn't have written that. That was the line that actually made me wince, kind of, and read again to make sure I'd read it right.
Yeah, I think, was it Rachel who said that, I think, or something. It's difficult to read, and definitely, like, as you say, it wouldn't appear if it was republished nowadays and, you know, into modern day. that definitely wouldn't appear, would it? So definitely not.
I think we're probably more aware of when things are put in print, how much weight those things then have, and maybe it wasn't quite as sort of like obvious to people back in the day that if it's sort of a bit on the edge of taste, it really would affect people reading it. But then also,
I think it's unfair
books,
to.
Sorry.
Josh, carry on.
Well, it's just the fact that like they are teenage girls and it's very much playground stuff. It's sort of like whatever you can say to upset these people that you kind of hate. The worse the better, I guess.
Yeah.
What
were you going to say, John?
I was just going to say, obviously we're talking about Pike, we're talking about Slumber Party, but it's kind of unfair for us to kind of pin all this on Pike when any number of the point horror and YA books were doing, as much kind of body shaming, fat shaming, just general, that sort of general derogatory piece about people's appearance. Stein does it an awful lot, before you even get into the very archaic descriptions of mental health and all that kind of stuff in the point horror. So I feel it's a little unfair of us to kind of just pin this on Pike, but for the Slumber Party, some of it was pretty bad, bad. Pike.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Under.
Sorry, my ring doorbell's going off. It's Santa's here. Sorry, I did put it on Do Not Disturb. Someone's at the front door.
Christopher Pike, he's come round.
He's come to beat me up. Sorry about that. Maybe jump as well. Oh dear. No, I definitely agree with that, John. It's it does happen a lot in point horror, Stein especially. So yeah, definitely.
I do kind of wonder if maybe this being one of his only 2 point books, if there's maybe a list of bullet points of different things that he'd have to hit, and it's like current issues and how do you handle that in 1985? Whereas all his other books, I feel like he had more freedom to do what he wanted. Like he didn't write point books.
But the thing is, didn't you think that I was reading that and there is stuff in Slumber Party that just made my jaw drop and thought, this would never appear in any other point book. The story that Cal talks about basically napalming Germans, that just comes out of absolutely nowhere. It's absolutely horrific. The imagery is terrible. And the language that's used, and I was thinking, how on earth did this get into a Pike book? When the rest of it is kind of, R.L. Stein, 12 chapters of people playing phone pranks on each other, and you've got this guy here in the Pike book talking about napalming Germans. It was the oddest.
It was
inclusion.
Very random.
He seemed to get away with a lot more in this book than any of the point books for the time. And Weekend was kind of similar as well. That had that kind of slightly more extreme bent. And I just wonder, I'm curious as to how he got away with that in that point, and why everybody else in the point series, the point horror, played it so safe and so and not crossing that line, whereas Pike was like, yeah, there's a line, I'm going to just speed right over it.
Well, this is published in 1985, which is kind of before point horror got to be really or before point horror was really a thing at all. It's just a point book. So maybe when they started to rebrand the series, they kind of wanted to tone things down a little bit. This. He was so Weekend and Slumber Party were never published in the UK point horror series. He was one of the only ones that wasn't published in that. He was published independently because a different publisher bought the rights to his book. So maybe that's why as well, early on.
I wonder if they were kind of trying to go for like a little bit of like the older reader, trying to get the Stephen King readers interested, because he's clearly loves Stephen King, and that napalm sort of section in particular felt like Christopher Pike thinking in like a Stephen King frame of mind.
Definitely.
Sorry, I've noticed all the UK editions also kind of have a Stephen King kind of look.
Totally.
And the snowman on fire that never appears, like what a letdown. Well, it's kind of reference, but I was expecting some angry snowman.
Those Pike covers that you were holding up there, Cameron, they were all originally done by the same cover artist that the UK Stephen King publisher used. So that obviously helped with the feel, the big typeface. That's obviously what they were going for. And clearly it worked. It worked on me.
Yeah, it worked on me as well. Eddie's video put this show was cray cray, so the book was cray cray. Underage drinking, sibling rivalry, sibling homicide, possible. I can't say this word. Pyromaniacs. Yeah,
Woohoo!
borderline naughty men, and the whole shebang. She moves, she moves. He was trying to get him to sing there, but yeah, it was definitely crazy. Yeah, and he said by show I meant book. Teddy put a couple of problematic parts, victim blaming, fat shaming, which we was just talking about. It just made him feel a little bit uncomfortable. Your worst nightmare said, I always thought this was just popular girls, their little society was brutal in high school. That's so true. You always had that group in high school, didn't you? That kind of, yeah. And I saw Heather overdue notice, and Atia has put not Mindy when I mentioned Mindy earlier. Like, what was the actual point of Mindy? Like, what was the point of her? Like, she drops a chewing gum in the snow, picks it back up, puts it back in her mouth. But that whole scene.
The chewing gum was like a whole other character. I loved it. It kept popping up to say hello.
But like that whole scene at the end, like, I have to admit, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but Mindy's character at the end made me laugh because she was just oblivious. I could just imagine her waking up like, what's going on? And then just blowing her bubble gum.
There's Lara kicking the door down, and Mindy's just lying there going, what? As the entire house is engulfed in flames. And they're like, wake up, you stupid.
I think she said something like, oh, no, not today, Lara, or something like, you know, and I'm just thinking, oh my God.
She calls her mummy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, wasn't she like basically up to her eyes in codeine by that point, though? So I suppose you can't really blame her.
Yeah. It turned out maybe it wasn't codeine, it might have been something else. So that we'll give her that, but she was a bit pointless, really, wasn't she? Bless her. Scream 1996 said, I loved Laura in Burn the Negative, Josh. Yeah, there you go.
Someone's out there.
Yeah. April 80s and 90s book art said the anorexia comment was shocking. Yeah, it definitely was. So I'm just catching up on some comments. Eddie's video said you don't really sympathise with anyone, maybe the little sister. So obviously spoilers, so you know, there was a whole reveal that Celeste ended up being Nicole, who died back 8 years ago. So did you feel a bit of sympathy for Celeste? Yeah, John's nodding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the part where she has them all tied, spoilers again, she's got them all tied up in the basement, and she's about to kind of have a kerosene party, and her and Nick Celeste and Nicole and Nell are chatting away. I thought that was one of the nicer parts of the book, because you actually kind of you kind of felt sympathy for both of them. You know, even though Nell was obviously slightly psychotic by that point and had twisted the events of 8 years earlier, you did kind of feel sympathy. I felt sympathy for both of them. So yeah, I did feel. And it's kind of interesting because you read back, and he does really telegraph that reveal. You know, if you're paying attention, you know, to the cream in the bathroom, etc. He does lay those clues, which is, you know, it's not a complex mystery per se. So, but he doesn't also cheat you at the end of it. So you do kind of see that slightly coming. But I did think that little conversation, you know, when you pair it in with what you know happened in that flashback, and then you compare it with what Celeste or / Nicole had been led to believe, I thought that was kind of sad. And you know, that was for me, that was the nice part of the book, because those two characters actually really did come alive for me then.
How about you, Cameron? Did you feel sorry for Celeste?
I did. You know, she's been through a lot. And I don't blame her for being angry and wanting to get a revenge, but I think she at the end of the day, she decides she can't go through with it. So pretty complex character, and tied up the book really nicely. Sorry, I have a cat here.
I was going to say, have you got
Can we
like
see?
an animal dog?
Oh,
Oh, look. Oh, we love little animals on our chats. Oh, sweet.
But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I definitely felt bad for her. Absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Josh? You felt sorry for her as well?
I
Yeah.
love Celeste, and I just felt like, oh my God, what a life you've had. You know, her
Yeah.
parents.
the parents.
The parents,
Oh,
like, staging a
yeah.
funeral for her. Like,
We
what the fuck?
yeah, are we surprised any of these kids turned
Yeah.
out the way they
So,
were when the
Yeah.
parents basically faked her death, held a funeral for her friends. Everyone believed she was dead, and then was like, actually, it's just easier for everyone to believe that she's dead because she doesn't look actually quite as nice as she used to. Like, awful.
Yeah. I
yeah,
found that.
I forgot about that bit.
And did she choose her new name herself as like a bit of a joke? Because obviously it's the heavenly thing. Like, was she trying to, I don't know, was she trying to get people to figure it out, or
Yeah, I think so. I felt so sorry for her, especially more so the person that she trusted. Obviously her sister just led her down a garden path of like hatred. But yeah, I did feel sorry for her, and I forgot about because she mentioned that she had to watch her own funeral.
Yeah.
And I forgot about that until you just mentioned, John, and that's sad. Like, oh, not nice.
And it's such a Pike thing. It's such a Pike thing as well, is that, he isolates these kids, these teenagers. There's barely any adults around. The ones that are around are either planted as complete red herrings or utterly incompetent. And he does that, quite a lot. And that's, it's a nice kind of trick. But, you're sitting there thinking, gosh, what sort of parents these poor girls have? Yeah, dreadful parents. They kind of, if you've ever seen Sleepaway Camp, all I could think of as the parents was that they were like the sort of the slightly doolally aunt who's in the sleepaway camp. That's all I could think about. It's like, what sort of, how unstable do you have to be to raise your kids and make everyone think that they're dead and then hide them away? It was just but at least contributed to why perhaps Nell was sort of off the rails by the end of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Terrible friends.
Yeah.
Recipe.
But they get to go skiing, so it's not that bad,
Oh dear. Well, poor Lara, she took a tumble because of Rachel, didn't she? I don't know why I'm laughing so much at that, but it did make me laugh because I could just imagine it, because it would totally be me. Everything's going wrong tonight. Everything's falling. But it would totally be me. I would totally fall.
I really found their relationship fascinating, because they were kind of like competitors.
Yeah.
And they could have conversations with each other where they were very sort of frank with each other. And it wasn't like backstabbing necessarily. It was more just like, I'm gonna win the crap out of you, kind of, just by being superior in every way, kind of thing.
Yeah. Sorry, everything's like falling down in front of me. If you can see what I can say, sorry.
Like Lara.
I wasn't like going, oh, I know, yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, Eddie's video said perhaps that wasn't the point though, to like them. Yeah, definitely. I like the Phoebe Bridgers sweatshirt. Yeah, so I'm just having a quick skim. I got a little bit behind. So she was a bit pointless, bless her. Oh, about Mindy, yeah, definitely she was.
Oh, I'm starting to really warm to Mindy now that everyone's taking it
down. So Kirsty's put that she guessed the Celeste reveal quite early on. But do you remember when you first read it? Because I take it this was a reread for everyone. Like, do you remember guessing it, or do you remember anything, Cameron?
Yeah, I guessed it like 30 or 40 pages in. So it's a pretty common point twist. I feel like point books, you kind of have an idea. Oh, it's probably the best friend who's the killer.
It's like a common joke, isn't it? The best friend did it. How about you, John? Do you remember when you first read it, like thinking that you knew what the reveal was?
I did work out who it was, and I did figure out it must be Nicole. But I confess that I'm one of these people that it's just crap at scene twists come in. So
Same.
I didn't see that. I didn't actually work out. I probably had it back in my mind. I didn't think I actually really worked it out until the flashback scene when she makes a point of the cream on the shelf in the bathroom with the end Kutroff, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But actually, I really did remember very little because it was one of the first Pike books I read. So the only scene I ever remembered was Laura peeing on her hands.
Yeah,
That was the only scene I ever remembered from that book, and it stuck with me. There were three scenes in three Pike books that really stick with me. So there's Laura peeing on her hands, the ending of Die Softly, which still sticks in my head and was one of the most disturbing things he's ever written. And then the opening scene of Monster. And those three things are the three things that stick out for me from Pike books. But Laura peeing on it. You
funny
go, girl.
enough,
It's ingenious. It's ingenious. I mean, if you're trying to fire a flare gun and your finger won't work, then you just pee on your hand.
I mean, we all know now, you know, point horror is very educational. Christopher Pike is very educational.
Can we imagine Stein writing anyone peeing on their hands? I don't see it.
He'd put like a fake out in it, so it wasn't pee, it was apple juice or something.
Yeah.
You know, like a fake out. Laura was just joking. But yeah, funny enough, that's the only scene I remembered from this book. Before I reread it, I was like, I remember someone pees on their hands. So it obviously stuck with me for a long time. That's why I made like stupid photo and reel about it, because it was too good not to. Oh dear. But yeah, did you realise, Josh? Do you remember when you first read it? If you remembered the twist, I know you remembered it this time.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, when I first read it, I would have been 12, 13. I don't think I was much of a problem puzzle solver at that age, so I don't think I would have guessed the end. I can't remember if I figured it out a few years ago, but
Yeah.
it's such a crazy story. There's so many elements going on that it's very difficult to figure out what's going on basically. So yeah, I can't remember.
There is an awful lot of plot. There's an awful lot of plot. That's one of the notes I put down, and that's one of the nice things about it. It doesn't let up for a second. You know, the minute it starts, every single page has a different red herring. He sows a different mystery. And fair play, by the end of it, he does tie everything up. I think the only thing for me that stuck out was the fact that a lot of it seemed to be, and I know that originally that had a kind of, had a sort of Carrie-esque telekinesis plot line to it, and the elements of that are still in there. Obviously the snowman, because when you get to the end, you're kind of like, that really doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't add anything to the plot. It makes no sense, and he's obviously trying to find some other way to tie that up when he was asked to take the supernatural element out of it. But there is an awful lot going on, and he juggles everything pretty well. He keeps the mystery kind of going, the pace going. It's pretty rapid fire, so and it's probably one of his shortest books as well, so I think he keeps everything going pretty much right till the end.
So I remember, I know, Cameron, you messaged me and said, oh, you flew through the reread because it was just, quite a quick read. I can't speak either today.
It's like seven chapters. It's crazy. It's like some chapters are like 30 pages. Which is the complete opposite, like we were saying earlier about point horror books, where they're like 5 pages with a cliffhanger at the end.
Yeah, like a mop pretending to be a person or something. That is definitely in a point horror, I'm sure it is. I think it
was probably a Sinclair Smith.
I think it was a Stein. I'm sure it's a Stein book. I'll have to double check. I think it might be. I think it's. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to say which one it is, so then you get a surprise when we read it because we haven't read it yet. Melina's put, why did no one notice that Celeste looked familiar? So did you find that quite hard to believe that no one would have recognised Celeste, Cameron?
I feel like because she was so badly burned that she probably had plastic surgery, it would have altered her appearance quite a bit. So, and also older now, versus her being however old she was in the original flashback. I think she was younger than all of them, and now she's 15, 16. So I guess that was kind of what made me guess it was her when they were like, she was dead. I was like, she's not dead.
Yeah.
But it's
No one's ever dead.
her, she's so buttoned up, and she's afraid to meet a boy. So she's that issue with closeness with other people, and just how reclusive she was. I was like, it's got to be her.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. What do you think, Josh? Do you think they should have recognised her, or you find that quite believable that they wouldn't?
I think that's assuming that they're actually paying attention to anybody else other than themselves.
Or Callum
they're all
personally.
they're all pretty self-involved. I mean, Lara definitely has flashes where there's like her subconscious is trying to tell her that she knows who Celeste is.
Yeah.
So there's that in there at least. But it wasn't my biggest problem with the book.
Yeah. How about you, John? Did you think they should have recognised her? Like,
I kind of agree. You know, there was a bit of an age difference there. There was plastic surgery and skin grafts, etc. So I can extend my suspension of disbelief. It was very similar actually to I don't know if you've ever read Fear Street book Sunburn, which has the most ludicrous reveal at the end of it, which I won't spoil, but it's not far off this, where the entire premise of the book rests on the central characters having no clue or even recognizing the person that is in the end the actual killer. And it's so ludicrous and unbelievable that actually took me out of the book, whereas here it's slightly, because I think in that book she's just like done her hair and put a bit of makeup on or something, and they go, oh, completely different person, we don't know who you are. So but, I mean, but that's R.L. Stein, you know, he gets away with that. But I agree, they maybe didn't recognize it.
No, definitely, I agree. Eddie's videos put, if anybody here is useless, it's Percy.
Yeah.
So what the heck, man? Why were you even there besides to cause rivalry between the girls? So what did we think of Percy? Because his opening line, like, I had to read it twice.
I wrote that down in a note.
I think, what does he say? I think I wrote it down as well, and God, I've lost him. So I think he says, are you looking for a hard one or a soft one?
Oh, a soft one. And she's talking about oranges or apples, I think it was.
And I'm like, oh dear.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So what did we think of Percy then? Do you think he was just pointless, like Mindy?
I think he was pointless. There needed to be a love interest, because
yeah. They needed someone to obsess over and have that rivalry over.
He was very forward, wasn't he? Like he didn't Google obviously. He looked up her address. Like he found where she lived and found her phone number and stuff, which is a bit like, Percy.
And in like 1985, you know, talking, that's like good proper stalking, that is. It's not like nowadays where it's easy.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag. What about you, John? What did you think of Percy? Waste of space.
He, like, you know, like Cameron said and Josh said, you know, you need that, you know, and it's a point novel. The majority of the readers were going to be girls of that age. They wanted, you know, they need that kind of character to kind of place themselves and sort of crush on, you know, Percy. Hopefully not Cal, because Cal was a bit gropey and octopusy. You need those. He was a bit useless, but, you know, to be fair, he tolerated Laura's kind of psychokinetic carry theories and was kind of like, okay, just for a second, let's do it. He didn't kind of dismiss her and wasn't kind of going, you know, what you're talking about, don't be daft, go and do the dishes or something. You know, he wasn't quite a barbarian, but there wasn't really much to him. And like I said, it was Cal at the end of the day who basically alerts the ranger station to the fact that they were about to be blown up by a propane tank, which they kept every single. They might as well have put a flipping flashing red light every single time someone mentioned the propane tank. Yeah. Like, of course, that is going to go by the end. Here's the propane tank. Another way to, you know, reminder halfway through. Oh, there's the propane tank. I wondered if that might blow up anytime soon. And then, of course, it does. So yeah, I thought the boys were, you know, were a necessary evil to the book, definitely.
I mean, at the first sign of the word propane tank in the basement, you just wouldn't stay there, would you? You'd be like,
why is it in the basement? No.
Why is it in the basement? Why have they got a propane tank? I think they try and explain it away, but I'm still a bit like,
But
yeah.
didn't she say like, oh, my parents installed a brand new propane
Brand
tank?
new. Is it to show like, because they were,
They kept the
oh
receipts.
wait,
Yeah.
their parents worked in oil, right? So maybe it did make sense to them, you know, because they've just probably thought, oh well, the parents work in oil, so it must be some new fancy fandangled thing. Maybe. I don't know. But Percy for me took an all-time low when they were finally searching for Dana, and then they kiss over her potential dead body.
Yeah, what was it? The bit of bone that or something in the grass.
I was like, oh, Percy, just go away. And then after that, he did. I don't think we saw him again. Oh, did we see him at the end? Oh, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah, it's at
remember.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the hospital as
He
well.
came back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
she could
like
have took him out.
I like that he didn't go for Rachel. I respected that.
Yeah.
Because she was like throwing himself at him basically, and he
Yeah.
was like wasn't interested, which is like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that. I did like that he didn't go for the normal, you know, type of point horror
Homecoming
bitchy
queen.
girl that yeah, that
I
we
always
know.
It's like the descriptions of her like pushing her breasts up against him and stuff like that. I was like, again, Stein wouldn't do that at all. If it was Stein,
There are
she'd
no
be across
breasts.
she'd be across the cafeteria, no breasts at all.
Oh, do you know who?
They push elbows, and then it wouldn't be his elbow. It would turn out to be the elbow of somebody next to him by accident or something. It was Stein.
Yeah.
We'll be slipping a note that says, I
Yeah.
like you, he, or something.
But in like a dangerous font, like, you know,
Yeah,
the wrong
stuck together with like bits of newspapers that actually look like a ransom note, and at the end he's like, "I thought that was romantic."
Oh dear. Rachel reminded me of, you know, I can't remember, oh maybe her name was Danielle in Happy Death Day. You know,
Oh,
the
yes.
bitchy like roommate.
Yes, that one.
Kappa
Yeah.
Kappa or whatever, I don't know what it is, but I just kept envisioning her, and I
That is
thought,
such a great movie. That is such a great movie.
yeah, I love
That is like a point horror
Mm.
book, you know, as a film.
Yeah.
It's just so I can't believe I would refuse to believe that, you know, the people behind that had never read point horror and weren't going for that vibe. It was just sublime.
I think he's our age. That director is like mid-30s to late 30s, I think, so it would make sense.
Yeah. All right.
Mid to late 40s. But I'll take mid.
Teddy...
I'll take mid 30s, Josh.
Oh. Teddy put he paced, so Christopher Pike paced it well, but I think it would have helped to have fewer characters. Oh, interesting.
I mean, they did ditch Dana pretty early. She's not really in it, is she?
Yeah. And
Bindi was in bed for the last quarter of the book.
But Lara didn't really like make much effort to search for Dana, right? Like she just
she did. She made at least 2 phone calls.
She was calling up. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, then she was more worried about the cars than where Dana was.
Yeah.
So they just handed the keys over to some old man that they didn't know who it was.
Part of me
He called himself Colonel.
just telling her, because then she would be really, really worried, and then she's like, no, she's probably fine. I should worry about the cars more. And then she but I feel like, all of the girls are just like, they have this conscience, and they have this awareness, but they're just like, no, we're gonna have fun. We're just gonna have fun.
Yeah.
There's stuff.
Larissa's put sunburn, which John mentioned, is ridiculous.
Read it. It's actually really, really fun, but it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah. Eddie's video put, never mind, he was there for comic relief. I presume that's Percy.
For a second I thought you meant actual children in need. I was like,
oh dear. Melina's put, oh, did I say good proper stalking earlier? I don't remember saying that. Oh dear. Larissa's mentioned about Diane Ho. So with Diane Ho's books, she has a lot of characters, but she doesn't lose track when she reads her books. So Weekend and Chain Letter had me all over the place. Yet Final Friends with its 15 to 16 main people, I was always fine with. I've not read Final Friends. Oh, okay.
Read the first one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
this is good. It's well worth the read. And in typical Pike fashion, in the last book towards the end, it's completely insane and goes, you know, places that you don't expect. I can't even spoil it because even I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this gone this crazy. But it's actually really worth a read because you get to spend a lot of time with those characters. You're kind of fleshed across 3 books, which he hasn't really done in any of them.
I've not read
First
that
book's
one.
called The Party, but the party doesn't actually happen until like the last 20 pages. So the whole book is just people talking about the party.
Yeah.
And then you get the party and then the book ends. It's quite strange.
I saw Cameron put his thumb up. You've read Final Friends then, Cameron?
No, I
haven't,
no,
I haven't.
Read that it goes crazy in the end of the book. And also you're talking about how the party doesn't come into play until the end. I feel like it's like that in a lot of Stein books as well. I feel like Halloween Party is the only one I've read of his where it's like a party all the way through the book.
They have to like save it up. Save it up at the end.
Just gonna read this comment out. So someone's put, "Ooh, John, who is he in the top right?" Now I know who's on the top right of my screen, so yeah, that's Cameron. Anyone? Eddie's video said anybody else end up really liking Rachel? So yeah.
Always.
Yeah, definitely.
She drives a BMW. What's that like?
Kirsty put, they literally lost track of Mindy and left her in the burning house. Yeah.
There was a bit where they're kind of leaving and then someone says, oh, I remember we forgot something. And it's like, it's Mindy, she's upstairs, you know, drugged up to her eyeballs.
Yes.
Laura goes upstairs, like kicking the door in, and then obviously Celeste, Nicole comes up and helps her out. But yeah, they just almost go without her. Poor Mindy.
Yeah.
Justice for Mindy.
Justice for Minda. Yeah. Oh, Sharon's been stuck in shopping hell, but she's here now, she said. But she's put, poor Mindy, who douses someone with alcohol that makes them laugh out loud. Oh, yeah. Because, like, you know, when Mindy got set on fire, like, was that done on, it was done on purpose, right, in the end? That was a purposeful thing by now, I'm guessing. I wasn't sure if it was an accident or on purpose. I'm just going to guess if it was Nell, it was on purpose. So were there any other moments in the book that stood out that you really liked, like any scenes or particular moments, like favourite lines or something, apart from the peeing scene, because that's just a given, everyone loves that scene. So Josh, anything that stood out for you that you liked?
I just liked the big reveal in the basement. I thought it was really well done, and I just love that they were all tied up down there. And I love the image of Nicole she grabs a buzzsaw or something she grabs something quite outrageous to try
like hacksaw, I think it is, isn't it? To start chopping their vines off.
It's quite like, it goes full horror. Like, she takes her clothes off and it's unsparing in the way it describes her. And then it's really quite awful that the last part of her that isn't burned does then get burned as she tries to save her sister. So it's very effective.
And I think at some point as well, Celeste / Nicole kind of says, oh, the skin's peeling off my hands and stuff, and it's just
the skin's coming off,
just horrific. And like, there's not even that much imagery about it, you just need that line and you just know, like, it was just really effective.
It's getting crawl.
Definitely. How about you, Cameron? Is there any other scene that stood out to you
aside from the peeing scene?
It's a given.
There are two. I do like the basement scene, John, I agree. But also the scene where they make all the food for the dinner and describing all the food. I was like, oh, I want Christmas so bad. It was making me so hungry. So I love that. I love descriptions of food in any of my books. but also the Ouija board scene. I love a good Ouija board.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favourite scenes. That whole seance Ouija board flashback scene was just, I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought it was really good. It kind of reminded me a little bit of I think there's a film, is it Witchboard? Like the way they use the Ouija board in that. Just reminded me a little bit of that.
I love that movie.
Yeah. I think I watched it to chat about it with Eddie's video, and I'd never seen it before, but I really liked it. I thought it was brilliant. How about you, John? Was there a scene or moment or a particular line that you liked?
I think the scene, again, I'll say the ending, because I think it really did reward the fact that you'd stayed with this book, and he built the pace up actually really, really well. So when it got to that bit, you were actually, oh, this is actually really exciting. And I could see the whole thing in my head. I could see, you know, all playing out in a sort of movie or a TV show. I think it was really exciting, and by that point you were kind of rooting for them all. I did like the line, and it just reminded me just how much more mature the Pike was writing point when you discovered that the house used to be owned by the mafioso and they used it to store heroin and cocaine. And I just went, oh, really? It's, you know, this house was just begging to be blown up, basically, with a big kerosene tank. So I just thought that was such a sort of weird kind of throwaway line that, again, you're sort of sitting there going, what were the editors at Scholastic thinking? Oh, here's our target audience. We've had really horny teenagers. We've had references to sex and violence. Let's just throw in heroin and cocaine now. Why not? We've done everything else. I just thought that was just so random, and how he got away with it, I don't know, but I'm glad that he did, because it made me chuckle.
Yeah, I'm glad he did get away with it. And I loved the line when they said, "This is supposed to be a slumber party, not an orgy."
Not an orgy. Yeah. This was the very start of Horny Pike. Let's say this was the Pike, horny from the get-go, Horny Pike.
Oh dear. And one of my other favourite lines was, do you know what? I actually think Mindy might have been my favourite character overall, just because she was so stupid. But someone says to her, "Take that gum out of your mouth, it makes you sound like a cow." And my mom used to say that to me. She used to say, "You sound like a cow chewing a cud," I think, or something. So I was like, oh, perhaps I am Mindy. You never know. So obviously Pike's original idea with this was that it was going to be like a Carrie style rip-off for teens, but obviously, as John mentioned, at editing they kind of changed it, and he was told to take the supernatural out. Would you have preferred it with the supernatural left in it, Cameron?
Yeah. I love the book as it is, but I love stories that have the supernatural, and I think it would have made everything more believable.
Yeah.
It would have been like you were saying, the stuff with the snowman. It's like, why is that there? But then if you had the supernatural in it, it's like, okay, well, suspension of disbelief. I'm in.
Yeah, no, definitely. How about you, Josh? Would you have preferred a bit of a Carrie style book, or do you like it as it is?
I'm similar to Cameron, where I do like to have a bit of a supernatural garnish in there. But I think with this one, because he references Carrie about 7 times in the book. So, and then he starts to introduce all like the pyromania and the like spontaneous combustion stuff. And I think that if it had turned out to be that, it might have been a bit of a letdown, because he's already referenced all these things anyway.
Yeah.
So the fact that it isn't that, and it is actually rooted in something quite horrible and traumatic, it gives the book maybe more a bite than it would have if it had had a supernatural ending.
Yeah, definitely. And how about you, John?
Yeah,
what would you have preferred?
I kind of agree with Josh. I think I would have been a little kind of not disappointed, but just thought, oh, you know, that's not quite as interesting as I thought it might be. And I think he kind of wrote himself out of those kind of corners that his initial idea had probably written him into. And he got to play around with a lot more interesting supernatural stuff than just kind of riffing on Stephen King. Obviously, it was very early in his career. He was still trying to find his voice. It's probably only natural that he was, graduating towards ideas that, had stuck in his head from somebody that he really admired. I think probably most writers would say at the start of their careers, they've aped someone's voice or inadvertently riffed on someone else's ideas. So further down the line, he obviously got to develop that love of the sort of horror and the more supernatural, the mystical side of things. And when we chatted, I was talking to him about, you know, the difference between his very earlier books and the later ones, which kind of did, you know, embody a lot more sort of mysticism elements, more science fiction, horror, etc. And he said that early on there was a lot of interest after the success of Slumber Party Weekend, Chain Letter, etc., which sold millions of copies. There was kind of this. He was the interest from the editors was kind of to keep writing more of that stuff. And he said, you know, he called them his older straight thrillers. He said they were very easy for him to do, but they didn't challenge him very much. So that's when he obviously started to do his own thing. And he said the readers liked them, but he said as a writer that wasn't as challenging for me, and I could have keep churning them out, but I wanted to do something a bit different. So those early stuff obviously just paved the way for what was going to come later. So I'm glad that he kind of held back on that and actually, you know, went for it, you know, a bit more extreme later on with his own ideas rather than kind of riffing on someone else's.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely. I like that. April's put when Nell burned, I gasped. It was a vivid description for sure. Yes. And as Nell's face melts off, Kirsty said, "Blech."
Oh, that's another horrible line as well, when they talk about Nicole going up like a Molotov cocktail.
Oh yeah, in the past,
yeah,
in the
I didn't
flashbacks.
know what that was. I remember reading it, and I didn't know what that was. I had no idea what you know. But again, you know, I read that when I was, you know, a teenager. I'd never heard of a Molotov cocktail. I actually thought it was a drink.
Yeah, well, I wonder what when were the Stonewall riots? Well, it must have been around that time. So like
Yeah,
that
it's got to be around that time.
a
Yeah,
reference for him to
yeah.
That was started by a Molotov cocktail. Sorry. So
yeah. Sharon's put the face melt was so good. Yeah, we knew you'd like that, Sharon. Sharon likes the extreme. Larissa said the food description has always stayed in her head for some reason, like Cameron was saying. Yeah, it did sound delicious, and they were more bothered about the food than poor Dana. And the worst thing was she was in the basement the whole time.
yeah.
Like, I was like, well, wouldn't they have couldn't she have banged the propane tank or something, like, to get their attention? Overdue Notice said they should put Witchboard. That is a great movie. Sharon's put Mindy was the most unhinged. Teddy's put Supernatural should definitely have been left in. Interesting. Sharon's put yes, the Supernatural would have made it make sense. It seemed an incomplete story to me. I didn't enjoy it at all. Interesting. I've seen it's been very hit and miss. Like some people liked it, some people didn't. Heather's put, I wonder if he referenced after the Carrie element was I wonder if he referenced Carrie after the element. After, I'm getting all muddled up, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too, if maybe after the Carrie element was rejected by the publisher, maybe added it, because I feel like if it had been a supernatural story and he was referencing Carrie, that would have been a little too on the nose. Those now.
Yeah. And
I found the Carrie reference a bit weird as well, because surely Firestarter is the one that he should have been, because that was 5 years before this book, but obviously not as famous as Carrie. It just felt a bit odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's the one everyone kind of was more well known, wasn't it? I guess. Heather's put he tends to be honest in his books when the publisher pisses him off. Larissa put it would have been fun of having the supernatural element, but I do enjoy it as it is. Not the best one, but I still have a big soft spot for it. And Sharon's put, not sure if this was the best intro to Pike for me. I'm going to try a few more. So if you're new to Pike, then if this was like your first Pike and you wasn't sure, where should you go next? What do you think, Cameron?
That's a complicated one, because I really like the Midnight Club. I like Road to Nowhere, which I feel like those books are really, really good, but also the fact that the Midnight Club isn't really a horror book might turn some off and they'd be turned away from the sad element. And Road to Nowhere. That would be a good one. Also, what's the one? Oh, I can't remember it now. Whisper of Death.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really love. But I know the ending can be very controversial to some people. So
yeah. Oh, good ones.
there was one. I've not read Monster, but I hear a lot of people say that that's a good place to start.
That would have been my pick, Monster. It has the best opening scene of any Pike book, and is such a great read. It kind of combines a lot of horror, thriller, some of the sort of 1950s B movie element to it, and again has some great lead characters, an amazing lead girl who really takes the lead, and it's definitely my favorite one. That and Master of Murder are my two, because they're so different, but there's obviously a lot. He says there isn't, but there's a lot of Pike, obviously, I think, in Master of Murder. So those are my two, because they're so different. But there's just Whisper of Death would have been my other one, because that just absolutely blew me away when I read it. I just couldn't believe, that it was that good a book.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I've not read Monster either, so I need to read that. I have got that as well. How about you, Josh?
I
Witch,
freaking love Witch. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like an action horror, and it's got some really cool imagery in it. And I love Remember Me as well. It's probably that might even be my number one. I think it really holds up. I reread it very recently, and it's just really clever. I love it. And I love that he draws a diagram of a floor plan of a house in it as well, so you can kind of try to figure out the mystery yourself by looking at the floor plan. It's really cool.
I've not read that one, but I know I bought it because you told me that it was good, and I just haven't got to it yet, so I need to read that one.
Definitely
But I really
classic Pike. That's definitely a classic Pike. Remember Me.
Yeah, I really love Give Me a Kiss, just for its craziness. Like, it's just crazy. But I think I kind of like the craziness of some of Pike's work. But I think that's what makes Pike so good. Like, everyone loves him for different reasons, and like I have to admit, I really liked Summer Party. I thought it was good. I liked it just because of the characters. But I get why some people wouldn't like it. But that is Pike, isn't it? Like, it just sums him up, really. And I kind of love that.
Sorry.
No,
When I first read Slumber Party, I thought it was just okay. I was expecting a little more of the Pike that I've known and grown to love as a reader. So this wasn't my first Pike book. But then the second time I read it, I enjoyed it a lot more as a point book, because I really wasn't thinking it was going to be, oh, this is a Christopher Pike. It is more point, but then it's a more gnarly point book, which made it a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Eddie's video put, we needed an evil snowman. Yeah, that would have been good. Larissa's put, he has so many different types, though it really depends what you're into. So yeah, that's kind of what I was rambling on about. It's personal choice, I think, and that's just what makes him so good, really. April's put Road to Nowhere, Whisper of Death are so great. Larissa's put Hollow Skull, Spellbound, Whisper of Death, Lost Mind. I've not read Lost Mind. Heather's put Road to Nowhere, Monster, Remember Me, Spellbound. Eddie's video put this as my first Pike as well. Yeah, lots of recs there for anyone who's new to Pike.
And I think it's incredible, there aren't that many authors from that generation, I think, that people are still talking about. So obviously I read Pike when he was still being published. And obviously other people who are watching these chats and joining in on these discussions would probably weren't even born when he finished publishing, in the late 90s. And he's still got that kind of, that appeal, that draw. And I think it's because he didn't write down to teenagers. I think even though this is like his first book, it's still very early on. It's not as developed in terms of his style and his tone. He still doesn't talk down to the readers. He understands the people who are reading his book, and he gives them exactly what they want. Treats them like adults, doesn't treat them like kids, doesn't treat them like their parents, doesn't talk to them like their teachers. He knows exactly what they want to read, and he just delivers that from the first page to the last page. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why his stuff is just so enduring, because he had some great ideas and then delivered them in a way that didn't condescend to the readers, which unfortunately a lot of the YA stuff, even though we love it, that's one of the key flaws, is that it always treats the reader, a little bit contemptuously or a little less intelligently than Pike did. And that's certainly for me why I think I stuck reading Pike over anything else.
Yeah, no, definitely. Agree with that. I just saw that Narissa said she didn't like Witch, Josh.
I'm going to put a spell on you.
I just saw Narissa said that Monster and Give Me a Kiss are Grady Hendrix' favourites. Yeah, I think I remember him saying about Give Me a Kiss, actually. Yeah, Shan said love Grady, so definitely getting those. And Melina said, I like the description, a gnarly point book. Definitely. Shaman's put, I was an adult when these all came out, so missed them the first time, so it's fun finding them again in my 50s. I love that. And Narissa's put, explored some really interesting spiritual stuff.
Existential?
I can't say it. Oh dear. So yes, just this is going off topic, but yesterday I discovered I can't say anomaly. So anyway, my son thought it was, what was it? Anonymity. I can't say it. So anyway, anonymity. So we discovered yesterday that I cannot say this word, and this happens so often. There's like words I just cannot say, and so yeah, it's really not good when I'm reading it. No, I have to think about it before. I'm not going to embarrass myself.
I think we need a whole new series of us just trying to think of words that Shelley might not be able to pronounce.
Honestly, I didn't realise I was this bad until I started doing these chats, and then yesterday, as I say, my son was just laughing. He was like, say it again, and then in the end he couldn't say it properly because I'd said it wrong that many times. Anonymity. I can't even say it. Anyway, yeah, just always goes wrong. So yeah, I'm not very good when I'm reading out these comments sometimes, am I? So but guys, thank you so much for reading Slumber Party. I'm glad that you revisited it, and I'm so happy that we could have a little chat about it, and we all agreed that these bitchy girls were really interesting. But we wouldn't want to be friends with them, right? Definitely not. I better put my nose back on for the end. I don't know. Oh no, I can't. Oh no. Oh. No, it's not going to stay now. I've messed around with it too much, but yeah, you get the idea. But thank you, and do check out John's page on Instagram, and obviously the Facebook page for Christopher Pike, doing some good stuff on there, John. Do check out Autumn Crow and Autumn Crow High by Cameron. And I can only hold the one book up this time, Josh, because my thing fell and it's leaning on the other book. But do check out Josh's books as well. And if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas, and Santa brings you everything you want. Maybe some Christopher Pike books, you never know. Oh, fingers crossed. And thanks to everyone who joined in as well. I hope you have a lovely Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I've got some fun things planned over the next week, like a quiz and end of year quiz and stuff like that. So, and Heather will be happy to know that my dodgy polls will be back, because she always says my polls are dodgy. Someone's just finished Autumn Crow. Great job on it.
Thank you.
And yes. What was that?
Fireworks.
Oh. Did it do it? I didn't see it. I was too busy reading. How did it go off? Did you have it? Was it me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how it does it. It did that when Dustin was on, and I don't know how. No, I can't do it again. I just saw Sharon
It's the nose.
I know it was the
nose.
Sharon loved Autumn Crow as well, Cameron. So yeah.
Nice.
Oh, well, thank you guys, and have a lovely Christmas. And I'll speak to you soon.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.